Hello everyone, this is Aashin Prasad from Sports Star. I'm here in Guwahati after the India versus Afghanistan game, the second round of the FIFA World Cup qualifier. What can we say? Everyone expected a victory for India. Expected India to breeze through, not really breeze through, but at least topple Afghanistan in these two matches, both away and at home. But in the end, it turned out to be just 1 point out of a possible six, which has put their chances of progressing into the third round of the qualifiers, which they have never been before, extremely difficult with just two more matches to go against Kuwait and Qatar. India started brightly, but again, the same problems keep persisting with this team. They can't score. They can't take the chances which come their way, even chances which are just just 5-6 yards away from goal. In third minute of the game, where Manveer Singh had the best possible opportunity to put India ahead and possibly dictate the game from there on, but they didn't take the chance. It was a similar case in the previous match as well. Manveer had an opportunity from across, but he fluffed his chances. Um, he fluffed his lines, and yeah, from there on, India kept pushing, but chances weren't coming so easily. Afghanistan, as we have seen previously as well, they are a rigid side in terms of their shape. They are a very physical team. They don't allow the Indian players from the wide to trick past them and get into crossing positions and create as many openings as possible. India did start strongly, as I was saying earlier. They pressed hard. They forced some turnovers in the opposition half. But in terms of creating such real scoring opportunities, there were very few, and the passing was not that quick as well, and it needed some moment of inspiration. Not really inspiration, but then they moved the ball quickly from the back to the front for the first goal. And I think Anwar quickly passed to Lalang Mavia, and he quickly turned and lost his markers and played into Manveer. And Manveer, who usually sometimes doesn't play the early pass, here he saw Chetri in the box and played in a cross. And if it weren't for Amiri's handball, I think Chetri was on hand to score. But still, he considered a penalty there, and Chetri put away. And what a relief it was, right? It it was 502 minutes until India hadn't scored a goal, and yeah, we all thought okay, they could see it through, but again, when you don't possibly threaten the opposition team, they feel they could come back. 1-0 is not a big lead as well, and Afghanistan uh, held on, and I think they made some changes which possibly worked out in their favor. The midfielder, the number two, Saeed, I think, yeah, he came on and he was a real threat for India in the back line. Afghanistan resorted to some long balls, which India struggled to deal with, and that's where both the goals came from. And the first one was a knockdown from the midfield, where one of the forwards ran behind the defense, and then a goal came from that. And the second, the winner, the eventual winner for Afghanistan, it could have been easily avoided as well. Again, a long ball played into the back, and Gurpreet came and clattered into the forward, and from there, Sharif Mohammad scored the penalty. And yeah, so to sum up the game, uh, India had its chances, which they didn't take. India would feel they are themselves to blame because they could have killed off the game much earlier, and they didn't deal with some of these long ball threat which Afghanistan gave them, and it was two of them were sloppy goals, and the first goal also just went through a pile of bodies and just sneaked in, and second goal could have been avoided as well. So yeah, it will feel like a missed opportunity for most of the Indian players because it was like a six-pointer for them to take, but eventually they just came back with just 1 point. right after Afghanistan scored the equalizer, I think that was at the 70th minute mark, and few minutes after that, was the first was, and few minutes after that was the first time you could hear the Stimac out chants and Stimac go chants coming from the stand opposite to us, and it was initially hard for me to make out what was that they're saying. I thought I could hear Stimac, but then this was probably the first time I think in a stadium where the Indian fans have actually turned on him. Previously, you could see online when the results are not going their way, people used to voice out their frustration. But I think he had some credit in the bank last year with the performances in the early half of the year. But since then, like things haven't gone too well for him, except for that Kuwait result in the first match of the qualifier. And yeah, so I went around asking a couple of journalists, like, is this what like I could hear? But they weren't sure as well. But like, luckily for me, or sadly for Stimac, but these guys started chanting Stimac out again, and this time I think everyone could hear it much more uh, audibly what these guys were saying. In the post-match presser, I did ask Stimac about that. I asked him, did he possibly hear what they were saying and what did he make of it? And seems to suggest that like it seemed like someone had targeted him or possibly put someone to like start this chance. What I think what he was trying to suggest, and he said that like once his job gets done in June, or that is whether if he gets the team through to the third round of the qualifiers, or if he doesn't, and if he leaves the job as he had mentioned yesterday, I think he said that he's gonna answer everyone's questions and he'll have a lot to say about a lot of things. So we could look forward to that day. One thing which I think what I've been writing on also, where I've been consistent in noting, is that the chances which India do fashion, like India don't create a lot of chances, but the chances which do come, they are like you need to take them. Stamak was saying in the press conference, like he can facilitate and like helping them get to that point, but like at the end of the day, like these guys have to score. Manveer Singh from 5 yards out, like he has to score that. You can't blame Stimac for that. Like I know a lot of people will still blame Stimac for it, but like you're a top level footballer in the country and you're playing for the national team for like close to 3-4 years now. These are chances which you need to take, and this is like a high level game. You could call it the elite level for the Indian team. But if you don't score, then I don't know. I do have some sympathy for Stimac, but I mean, obviously, like the flavor of the season right now is to like hate on Stimac, but like it trickles up. No, it doesn't trickle up, right? Like, like the rot is like higher up than Stimac, and yeah, a lot. You can like point a lot of fingers in a lot of directions as to like why it's going wrong, but like obviously, Stimac is the face of this team, so understandably, he will get a lot of flack, and it's not like he's not to blame as well. He's been in rigid in terms of how he wants to play, and he's stuck with his selections, which I mean, like this is the team which he wanted, like, and which when he came in, he said that the style of football he wants to play, like he wants his players to come through, and they've come through, but now they're not delivering the results, and possibly one thing is that like he doesn't have the right players also to like play the style of football he envisions, right? There are times they play well. He himself says that like we play decent football, which you can give him credit for that, but like I think you also need to understand the reality of the players you have at hand. And he also seemed to suggest that, like, the players were not trying their best. He had mentioned after in the pre-match press conference, he had suggested that, like, some of them are not trying, and he was not happy about that. And it's possible that, like, some of these players are not trying hard enough as well. The players also need to take a lot of responsibility. One thing he keeps harping on about is the need for a longer camp. Again today, he said that if he had a longer camp, he would have he would have helped India beat Afghanistan. But that's not how the football calendar works as well. Um, you get the period, like the Indian football season gets over in March, start of April maybe, and after that, like, you have a 2 month long break before the June qualifiers. So he will get his wish in having a long camp in the month of May, but he's not going to get that, like, every before every international break. Uh, the FIFA calendar is for the 1.5 2 weeks, and the regular season goes on. So he's unrealistically maybe expecting the federation and the ISL to, like, uh, help out the national team by uh, making the fixtures in a way where, like, it suits his team. But everyone has their own agendas here, so it's not gonna work. And to uh, to give him credit, like, when he has the longer camp, the results have shown. But he also needs to understand that that's not gonna work every time. It's possible that, like, now that Kuwait and Qatar are playing in their match right now, I think it's 0-0, which has pushed India to third as we are speaking. So it's possible Qatar could win that match, and then by June, Stimac could actually take India to the third round of the qualifiers. And he might have a lot to say to a lot of us who doubted him, because he's been saying, like, don't when things don't go bad, don't doubt us, don't throw stones at us, like, support us. But yeah, you never know how things might pan out, because if he thinks that he can get the players up to the standards, the fitness levels required to uh, play the level which he thinks the team can do. But he says that with the 4 5 day training which he gets before uh, these fixtures, he says that it's very hard for him to get the players to play the way he wants to. In the midst of all the negatives about India, I think, like, we can easily forget about what Afghanistan have done. I think rightfully the Indian fans who were at the venue clapped the Afghanistan fans off. They gave them a round of applause, and I think the Afghanistan players also laughed it up. I think they have done something which is quite incredible. That this is the first time they have beaten India in India, and not many people gave them chances. I think I was also guilty of, like, thinking this was a 6 pointer for India in this 2 matches, considering what was happening with Afghanistan. Um, from last year, I think in November, 21 players had boycotted the team over the mistreatment by the Afghanistan Football Federation. And things have slightly improved. They got in a new coach, Ashley Westwood, who was a former Bengaluru FC coach. He's come in and, like, try to get the players back. I think they lost 8-1 to Qatar, and they lost heavily to Kuwait as well in the right after Westwood came in. I think they played with local players. I mean, like, most of the Afghanistan players play in European leagues, so their quality is quite high. But um, in those earlier matches, they played with the local league players in Afghanistan, and that showed. And since then, like, they have managed to get back most of the players. I think 5 players are still firm in their stance. A lot of credit has to go to Westwood as well. I think the Hassan Amiri, the captain, who retired today after a victory. He was pointing out how Westwood is the reason why Afghanistan could have a better future. He said that, like, he came in at the right time. Because not the right time, because he said that, like, it was a dark time for Afghanistan football, and he was the right person to come in and, like, take the ship forward. And yeah, so these guys have been yeah, it's not just the coaching duties which Westwood has to take care of. He mentioned that he had to do logistical duties as well. He had to convince players to come back. He was on calls 24/7 with Amiri, the other coaches, to figure out who's going to come in, who are the players who they could get in to play for the country. And they even had to, like, book flight tickets. So these are things he didn't probably expect to be doing as a football coach, but he says that, like, it's a first for everything. So yeah, I think they they actually got what they wanted. They got a 15-day camp, I think, before these two matches, and that clearly showed, I guess. They were much well drilled compared to the Indian team, and yeah, they right. I think they deservedly took 3 points today.